Hello, ladies. Welcome to day 5 of the boot camp. We are almost at the tail end of our time together. And I must say that for me, it has been quite rejuvenating. And I hope that it has been the same for you. Today is day 5. And I always want to start off with a bit of congratulations and just a way to just celebrate you for always showing up for yourselves, for your finances, for those around you, for everybody in your life who is going to benefit from you reaching financial independence and a state of feeling at peace and at calm with your money. So congratulations as we come to the last few days of the boot camp. To reiterate the promise that I made to you at the beginning, I promised that I was going to discover the one thing that's keeping you from feeling at peace with your finances, and that is staying in the dark when it comes to your money, not facing what it is that you need to do, not shining a light in the areas of your finances that, maybe are not the best, but definitely need to be brought out for you to examine. I also promised that you would learn what most people ignore, or what most women ignore, but will actually lead to them feeling confident about their money, and that is taking control and planning. And over the past 2 days, we've talked a lot about planning, how to go from just coming up with ideas of what it is that you can do to get to a point where you feel more calm and confident with your finances, and actually breaking those ideas or those tasks into tangible steps using SMART goals. Today, I'm going to be fulfilling the promise that you will have a practical approach to dealing with money-related stress by the end of this boot camp. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret, which is that you actually have most of the toolkit required for dealing with money-related stress. Today, we're actually going to be completing that toolkit with what we're going to be talking about today on day 5 of this boot camp. And don't forget, in a couple of days, on the final day, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into the secrets of financial success as a professional woman living here in Canada. So be sure to look out for an invitation to that session. It's going to be amazing. As a brief introduction, once again, I'm Yewande. I am the founder and CEO of Her Wealth Grows. I am a medical doctor. I am a psychotherapist, and I'm a financial literacy educator. I simplify the language of money so that professional women just like you can have access to the information and the education that you need in order to go from earning an income, budgeting, to actually building your wealth. And that's part of what we're doing in this boot camp and what we've been doing over the past few days. And so to reiterate what this boot camp, the journey that we've come on so far, at the beginning, we crafted a vision. I got you dreaming about where it is that ultimately you want to end up with your finances. Then we went on to actually establish what is your starting point, your present position, by doing a quick and easy assessment of the pillars of financial wellness. Then we took a step further to outline your plan and come up with tasks that are required to take you from where you are closer to where you want to be. We took a deeper dive into those tasks and actually made them SMART so that you're not only coming up with a list of tasks that never get done, but you smartened your goals so that at the end of the day, you have them written down and scheduled in your calendar, which will make it significantly more likely to actually happen and for your goals to come to pass. Today, we're going to be talking about something that's often ignored, which is the important concept of obstacles. We're going to be talking about why it's important to think about obstacles, and also at the end of it, your assignment will be to think about how you can then overcome these obstacles. So if you don't recognize this man in the picture, this is the Michael Phelps, the most successful and the most decorated Olympian of all time as of November 2021. He has a total of 28 medals, and he has the all-time record for Olympic gold medals. So very well decorated swimmer. Now, I thought it was very interesting when I learned more about Michael Phelps and some of the things that actually made him successful, particularly in 2008 during the Beijing Olympics. So his coach was a gentleman who had taught Michael Phelps the importance of vision, the importance of visualization. In fact, Michael Phelps was known to close his eyes before a race and really in his mind's eye, visualize the race and actually winning the race. So this is something that he practiced, which was visualizing the end of the race, visualizing becoming an Olympian when he was younger, visualizing winning the golds and all the medals. And if you recall, this is a big part of what we did on day one of the boot camp. However, it turns out that Michael Phelps didn't end then. He didn't end up just visualizing winning. In 2008, during one of the races, the 200-meter butterfly stroke, as soon as Michael Phelps dove into the water, unfortunately, his goggles actually started to fill up. And of course, the reason why swimmers wear goggles is such that they don't end up with water in their eyes, so they can actually see where they're going. They can see when they reach the wall so that they can turn around and swim back and forth. But as he continued to swim, the more he put his head in water, the more the goggles started to fill up. And so, of course, he couldn't see. He was basically swimming blind. And so he swam the race, went as fast as he could, swimming blind, which was pretty much a miracle that he was able to stay in his lane, reach the walls, and go back and forth several times. And not only did he surprisingly win the gold medal of that race, he actually broke his own world record. So he held the world record for that race, and swimming blind, he was actually able to break his own record, which was just remarkable. And so when he was questioned about that, like, how were you able to not only win the race, but beat your record without being able to see? Well, he gave a very interesting answer. He said, you know what, yes, I used to visualize winning, but what I also did was I would visualize what could go wrong during my races, what could get in the way of me achieving my dream and achieving my goals. And my goggles falling off was one of the things. So if his goggles were to fall off, Michael Phelps had come up with a contingency plan. He had come up with a backup plan of what he would do, or even better, he had come up with a way to mitigate that from actually getting in the way of his success. So what he would do was he would count his strokes. He would count his strokes so that he didn't necessarily need his vision in order to win the race. And to me, that was just so remarkable that even though his vision was taken away from him, because he had practiced swimming, counting his strokes without needing his vision, he was able to win, and he was able to win the gold. Not only that, he was able to win a world record. And so what does that teach us? It teaches us that in order to actually get to our goals, it's very important to think about the obstacles, the challenges that can get in the way of us actually achieving the goals. Because if we don't do that, when they come, when the challenges come, and they will come, because I'm sure that you have had experiences where maybe, whether it's impulsive spending or trying to get organized, you do all the work and you get to a certain point, a challenge comes and you're back at square one. So the challenges will come, but the secret here is to be able to anticipate the challenges, to think about them ahead of time, so that you can come up with a plan to mitigate them. You can come up with a plan that if this thing comes up, I'll be able to overcome it. So I'll give you my example. As I've been working on my business, working in my job, running my household, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, amongst other things, my time is very precious and very limited. And there will be days where I would schedule things to get done, whether it's for the business or maybe I'm catching up on my notes for work. And usually that's during the evening time. And I found out that even though I was putting these things in my calendar, I was setting goals. Unfortunately, there would be many, many nights when I just wouldn't be able to get anything done. And when I really thought about it, I realized that, you know what, this is happening because usually I'm getting interrupted by my kids, whether they're playing in the evening when they're supposed to be in bed, or dinner time went a lot longer because they didn't like what I offered them. And so it just ended up being this drawn out night. And my husband and I, between the two of us, we would be shuffling the kids back and forth trying to get them to sleep, which of course would would eat into my time, the time that I set aside in the evening at nighttime to do my work. And then I came to realize that, well, if this is a pattern, if this is an obstacle that comes in the way of me getting to my goals, then I actually need to anticipate this I anticipate that this is going to happen and put things in place that will prevent it from really throwing things out the window when it comes to my planning. And so for me, what did that look like? It looked like making sure that my kids during the afternoon, they slept at an appropriate time so that they would wake up at an appropriate time and they would not be too alert when it was time for them to finally go to bed. Or it meant that on nights where I really needed to get things done, that was not a time to experiment with foods that they may not like. It was time to give them either rice or spaghetti, foods that they were guaranteed to eat so that there would be no fussiness at dinner. And so when I put that in place, it was just a lot easier. Obviously, with the partnership with my husband, who's always been so supportive, with our partnership, we were able to get the kids in bed on time so that him and I, because he's also very busy as well, him and I could get our work done during the nighttime. And so really being able to anticipate and overcome your obstacles is a very critical part of this formula, of this step-by-step process that we've been going through over the past 5 days. Now, I can already hear you asking that, because I've gotten this question a few times already, that, Yewande, if you start to think about the things that might happen, the negative things that can happen, isn't that going to cause you feeling more stressed? Isn't that going to cause you feeling more worried? Isn't that going to cause you maybe causing a self-fulfilling prophecy where you think it and you worry about it and then the thing ends up happening just because you've been worrying about it? And I want to draw a very distinct difference between what is called catastrophizing in psychology. We call it catastrophizing, which essentially means you're thinking about the worst case scenario and you're staying there. You're just thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. You're not really doing anything about it. You're just worrying about it. So that's catastrophizing. And then there's contingency planning. Contingency planning is when you think about the worst case scenario, but you're actually thinking about, okay, what can I do to prevent this from happening? Or what can I do to buffer the consequence of this from happening? Or what can be my plan B and plan C and plan D? So there's a very big difference between thinking about the worst case scenario, thinking about what could possibly go wrong, and putting things in place to buffer that versus just thinking about it and worrying about it and not really doing anything with that information. So obviously what we're trying to do is contingency plan, and we really don't want to be catastrophizing because it's exhausting and it's not productive at all. Now, one form of an obstacle that I wanted to touch on because it's very, very common is this idea of self-sabotage. Self-sabotage essentially means that you are the one putting the obstacles in the way that prevent you from getting from where you are to where you want to be. And so it often looks like repetitive patterns of behavior, habits, which we're actually going to talk about more in detail tomorrow. It ends up looking like habits almost like you're on autopilot and you're doing certain things without really realizing or understanding why. The thing is that when you are self-aware, once you identify that you have these repeated patterns of behavior that get in the way of you going from where you are to where you want to be, I always say that the first step is awareness. Once you're aware that you tend to do certain things over and over again, whether it's missing the deadlines for applications for awards at work, or forgetting to fill out forms properly if you're putting your name in for a promotion, or always spending the money that you save. Once it reaches a certain amount, you're saying that you're trying to save a certain amount, but once it reaches a certain amount, you end up spending it over and over and over again. Those repeated patterns of behavior, that self-sabotage, is basically your behavior, your habits that are getting in the way of where you are, preventing you from going to where you want to be. Habits is something we're going to be speaking about in more detail tomorrow, but I wanted you to start thinking about certain things in your life that appear to be self-sabotage, because our homework today is to think more about the obstacles that get in the way of goals. What are the things that might get in the way of you accomplishing some of the goals that you set out over the past couple of days? And take it a step further to decide, just like Michael Phelps did with counting his strokes, just like I did with making sure my kids got to bed for their naps and got a simple dinner on nights when I really needed to get them into bed. What are some things that you can do, that you can put in place, that will help you get past these obstacles, that will really buffer the impact of these obstacles that will no doubt come up on your journey to getting to that calm and confidence with your finances? So that's the homework for today. And as usual, you will be getting a summary along with the replay of tonight's session. And as I promised, your toolkit to dealing with money-related stress in a very practical step-by-step way that we have done over the past few days. First of all, having that vision of that end goal and keeping that top of mind, writing it somewhere that you can see it every day, where you are reminded of why it is you're doing what you're doing and where it is that you're going ultimately. And then reassessing the your current position every 1 to 3 months to see if you're headed in the right direction, to see if your progress has stalled, or if there's anything that you need to do to adjust your behavior in order to keep up with that progress. So reassessing your current position every 1 to 3 months. And then writing down a list of tasks that are required to see that improvement, setting SMART goals, and also scheduling the tasks that are required. And then finally, anticipating the obstacles, the things that can get in your way, and coming up with plans to actually mitigate these obstacles. And so we've come to the end of day 5. I really hope that this has been a helpful session. And please let me know if you have any questions. And so if there are no questions, I'm going to wrap it up. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking more about habits, how to break unhelpful habits that are getting in the way of your success, and how to cultivate more positive, good money habits. Until then, I'll see you tomorrow.